Hooligan's Holiday was literally inspired by something a newscaster said during the riots in LA. They did an overhead view of like fires everywhere, all these stores burning to the ground. And the newscaster said, it's a regular Hooligan's Holiday out there.
Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold. We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, and especially staying healthy. Tonight, I'm going solo. I got our buddy John Corabi on the line. You know him from The Scream, Union, the Dead Daisies, and of course, that 90s era Mötley Crüe. But right now, it's all about his brand new solo album, New Day, dropping the 24th of April. He's already back on the road in Europe. Tour kicks off this Saturday night, February 16th. In this conversation, we go deep. We talk about the new music, the mindset behind writing this record, and what was really happening in the studio. He shares some classic Mötley Crüe stories you probably haven't heard before. And just wait until you hear who's in the All-Star Touring Band. This may surprise you. Straight talk, no filter, classic Corabi. This is a good one. All right, let's get into it. John, thanks for the hang, man. Notice you've been doing tons of press, which is a great thing. How does that make you feel, man? You're back in the game.
It's funny. I'm back in the game, for the first time as a solo guy. I'm very much used to this with all the records I've done with the Daisies, and it's like the whole thing. Every time a record comes out, it's like, all right, I know the next month I'm going to be doing interviews every day, but it's good for this one. I'm very excited about this record, so I'm happy that people still want to talk to this old fart.
No, hey man, like the intro said, you have a resume. I've been following you for years. Love a lot of it.
Well, you did neglect to mention that I am the night manager at the 7-Eleven off the turnpike, but whatever, we'll get to that later.
We all have a side hustle. Right off the bat, how'd this album come together? You wrote it with Marty Fredriksen. Tell us about it.
Honestly, I have to tell you, this was probably the most effortless record I've ever done in my life. I don't think at any point in this thing I even broke a sweat. Last year I was on tour with the Daisies, and Frontiers reached out to my manager and asked if I'd be into doing a solo record, and we had a couple Zoom calls. It was great. Mm-hmm. And my biggest concern was to make sure that my manager and the Dead Daisies manager communicated, so there was no stepping on either toes, whatever. And then right after that, the Daisies manager said, hey, we've been going hard since 2013. Let's take a year off. We're going to pick it back up in 27. So I go, awesome. That fell into place.
Yeah.
And then I just went into the studio. I said, I called Marty and I said, hey, dude, got a record. It's a solo album. Would you be into helping me write the songs and just go in and do this thing for me? He goes, yep, absolutely. So we just kind of buried our nose. We sit around with acoustic guitars, map the songs out. Once we had 10 or 15 really good ideas, we just went into Marty's studio, and I played guitar, Marty played bass, Marty's son played drums, and we just started laying stuff down. And then it was honest. it was probably, like I said, the most organic, effortless record I've ever done. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, the impression I get from the first single, "New Day," very uplifting, very old school. The music. There's room to breathe. Yes, felt like. Expand on that. Give us your interpretation.
Yeah, well, obviously doing what you do. One of the things that irks me about the music business nowadays is that you release a single or an album, and I call them the suits, the record label people,
Yeah.
the radio stations, all these cats, they immediately try to figure out, like, okay, what category or what box does this fall into? Is it heavy metal? Is it death metal? Is it speed metal, rock, grunge rock, classic rock? It's like all these labels that, in all honesty, when I was a kid, those things didn't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just told Marty, I said, man, I want to do an old 60s, 70s sounding record. And I just want to write. And if it, pardon my French, knocks our dick in the dirt, then that's the song that goes on the record. Like, I don't want to overthink this. I don't want to sit here and cater my sound to, what I did 35 years ago with the Scream or 33 years ago with Mötley, or, like, let's just write and do a no box record. And I'll let other people scratch their heads and figure out what category this falls into. But, I told somebody yesterday, I said, when I was a kid, you went to a record store, there wasn't categories. Everything was just maybe, if anything, bands were just listed alphabetically by their names. There was no categories.
Oh, I agree. It's just overabundance now. And besides putting the music in a box, there's so much music and there's so many channels to get it that, John, it's refreshing. It's uplifting. And the videos, the two videos, the imagery in the videos, sunshine, it looks like you're in California or something because it was all sunny, people smiling, people having a good time. It's old school. Talk about the videos.
And that's the thing about, I mean, New Day is pretty self-explanatory, the first single that we released. And, honestly, like I've learned a bunch of valuable lessons with all the different bands and marriages and girlfriends and all this other kind of stuff. And, one of the things that I think most people forget is that as human beings, we are blessed with the opportunity. We can have the shittiest day ever, but you know what? We can close our eyes at night, go to bed, forget about that day, hit the reset button, and wake up tomorrow. And tomorrow's always a new day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, just go out and kick ass and conquer the world, but it's just really a song about appreciating the little things in life and the things that are important, just go for it.
Tell us about the writing process. I know we touched on it earlier, but was anything overanalyzed? Did the stuff you didn't use? It was just like, this is it.
There's still a few ideas that Marty and I have like kind of started. And oddly enough, he's coming to my house later today, and my wife cuts hair, so he's getting his hair cut, getting ready for the tour. But I'm already starting to think about the next record. You know what I mean? Okay, like we started a few ideas. Let's finish these and keep this train rolling. But Marty's one of these cats, dude. Like, I can literally sit at his house. We'll get together, turn a football game on, sit there, have a glass of wine or whiskey or something like that, and then we sit around with acoustic guitars, and one of us will play something. We go, hey, what is that? I don't know. I'm just goofing off. Okay, great. And we sit there, and it's kind of funny. Like, almost every time I get together with that dude, just with an acoustic guitar, we will literally map out a song idea. So that's what we did. We just, once I said, all right, I got a year off. Marty, do you want to do the record? Yes. Step 3, we got together at his house and we just sat there with acoustic guitars, mapped a lot of these songs out. And then step 4 was like, all right, cool. Let's just go into the studio now and start laying this stuff down and building it. And you know, it's funny, even when we think we've got the right the right map, it's still changing as we're recording things. So it's a great process. I love working with Marty, and it's not that I probably could write some of these songs by myself, but I just love having a fresh set of ears and a fresh set of eyes. And he just makes me see things sometimes that I just was right in front of me and I didn't see it.
So now you get to take this on the road. And my God, this all-star band of Jeremy Ashbrook, Ace Frehley's band, Troy Luccketta from Tesla, Michael Devin, Whitesnake, Marty, Paul Taylor, Winger. Man, these are your buddies, and you get to go out on tour. Tell us about that and the tour with Tommy Kiefer this spring and summer.
Yeah, it's you know, I have to admit, it's like, again, it was so easy putting this band together because, again, I've known these guys for 20, 30 years, you know what I mean? And they all heard the record. They were all like, oh, this is great. You know, Devin, I play with in the Dead Daisies, so yep. I knew he was available. I just happened to call Jeremy. Jeremy played with me in the past before on the Live 94 record that I did. But I just called Jeremy to give my condolences over Ace passing.
Yeah.
And then we started bullshitting, and he's like, well, I'm available, dude, if you need anybody. And I said, yeah. And so I sent him the record, and he's like, oh, yes. And, you know, just the whole thing just happened like organically. And it was just, hey, do you want to do this? Yep, sure. Count me in. And so I literally get up every morning and I just sit there and I go, I don't know how I literally stepped in shit and I came out smelling like a Fabergé model. It's insane.
How'd you get Troy? Is he a Nashville guy or you just opened the Rolodex?
Everybody in the band is in Nashville.
Okay.
Well, Michael's in the process of, and it was funny because initially I was going to use my son, Ian, on drums. Ian played on the Live 94 album as well. Mm-hmm. But Ian's been doing some recording and shows with this other metal band that was kind of early 2000s. They were kind of popular and doing their own thing called Steppa.
Okay.
So he's out with them. And, but he just said, hey, Dad, you know, I hope you don't mind. Like, you know, not that I don't want to hang out with you, but I think I'd rather do this. This is more my cup of tea. So I was like, all right, no worries. Yeah. And Michael Devin, when he was looking for a house, he comes up and he stays with Troy Luccketta. So him and Troy know each other really well. So Michael called me and he goes, well, you know what, dude? Like I played the record for Troy Luccketta, man. He thinks it's great. So, you know, I think he would do it. And again, like I've always loved Tesla. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Who doesn't?
And I'm like, this is a new band. Is this guy going to want to like slut around America, you know, get the old van days again? Is he going to want to do that? But I called him up and I said, hey, Troy, it's Corabi. And he goes, you know what, brother? I haven't really been slamming the drums like I used to since Tesla. And he goes, I really want to do this. And I was like, okay, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
You know, and Troy's been a blessing, man. And you know what? It's like we kind of knew each other, but we didn't. And the more I hang out with the guy and vice versa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's always like, dude, I love you, Crab. You know, you're whatever. And just Troy's such a sweet dude. He's a nice guy. And that's the main thing with all these guys in this band. I'm like, they're all just cool dudes. They're really chill, just nice guys. So I'm happier than a pig in shit, dude. It's been awesome.
The tour, you're going out with Tom Kiefer. Tell us about the tour. How long is it? Is it spring through summer? Tell us about it.
It's right now our agents are trying to work out more shows. I'm doing some stuff on my own. Actually, I'm leaving here. I'm in Nashville right now. We're leaving on Tuesday, I believe, and we're heading over. Our first show is in Belfast on February 12th. So we're going to do the UK, head over to Europe, come home, do some shows on our own in the States. Then we go back over to Europe for like a week and a half. We're doing some festival stuff. And then we come back May 5th. We start doing some shows in Sayreville, New Jersey with Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like I'm not doing all of Tom's shows. I'm doing a few of them. Some of them, it's just me and Tom. Some of them, it's me, then Buck Cherry, then Tom. You know, and then I think he's got LA Guns on a few shows. He's working with a few different acts. But it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Tom and I go back, God, late 70s in the Philadelphia club circuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my next little point. It's like the fraternity. You know, I ran off the bands you've played in throughout the years. And at this point, tell us about the fraternity. I mean, God, you played with Rat. You played with Bruce Kulick. Share some of those stories because that's great stuff.
You know, honestly, if you look back at all the different things that I've done, I have truly been blessed to be able to play with some really great people. Even the screen guys, you know, there was initially, you know, it was me, John, and then three guys from Racer X, John Alderetti, Bruce Bouillet, and then Scott Travis. Scott then went on to work with Judas Priest. We got Walt Woodward. Then, you know, I did that for a while. Mötley Crüe called, and it's like, okay, Tommy, Nikki, and Mick, and myself. That was insane. Then, you know, obviously everybody knows the story. Vince came back, and then it's like I get to put a band together with Bruce Kulick from Kiss, Jamie Hunting from the David Lee Roth Band, and my dear friend Brent Fitz, who's gone on to play with Slash, and just a bunch of people. I played with Rat, you know, Now the Dead Daisies, you know, Doug Aldridge, Marco Mendoza, Richard Fortas, Tishy, Dean Castronovo. It's just like, I sometimes sit here and I go, again, you know, it's like, right when I'm looking at my shoe gun, you stepped in the biggest pile of shit. I come out and someone offers me a Fabergé, you know, what a Fabergé contract. It's crazy.
That's what I mean. It's just, it's impressive, but it must, you know, your life's work. It's a fraternity. It's impressive, yes. John. It's like,
well, and that's the thing. Like, as big as the music industry is, that's how small it is as well. And even this tour that I'm doing with Tom, everybody in Tom's band lives in Nashville. I've played before with Tony Higbee. I've played with Jared. You know, I've played with Tom, you know, whatever. Tom and I are friends. His wife and Tom come to my house to get their hair cut. So that's crazy. And then all the guys in my band are all from Nashville. So that's going to be like, you know, old home week when all the shows that we're doing. So everybody knows everybody and we all get along. So it's just going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be cool.
Listen, I want to ask you, the Mötley Crüe era, everyone seems to like poo-poo on it, but it was a great record. It was a fun tour. Share some positive times that you guys had.
Regardless of what anybody thinks or says or whatever, we had so much fun writing and recording and experimenting and doing that first record. It was a lifetime experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And regardless of how the record sold when it came out, I'm pretty sure, like, you know, it wouldn't have mattered who was in the band. If you go back and remember, like, bands like Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Poison, Motley, all those bands were struggling at that point because this, you know, new era of music was coming in and nobody gave a shit anymore. But the actual recording process, man, I just remember sitting in the studio with Tommy while we had a 53-piece orchestra doing the orchestra parts for Misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just laughing and crying. We were so emotional over how awesome this stuff sounded. And, you know, I think, you know, the fans are correct. You know, it didn't sound like a Motley record. You know, but I think to some degree, that's what those guys wanted. You know, if you look at the album cover, it was a very plain album cover. And I just remember being in the studio and I remember them saying, mainly those three, you know what? It's always been about image with us. This is our statement record. You know what? We can play.
Yeah.
We can write songs and we can play. And that's why the record looked the way it looked. And even when we did go on tour, contrary to how the movie portrayed our tour, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the movie made it sound. I mean, we were still going out to Darien Lake and places like this. And yeah, we were playing huge places that, you know, maybe held 10,000. And for the first time in their career, they weren't selling shit out, but we were still doing 3, 4, 5, 6,000, you know, so to some degree it was a failure, but at the time, in hindsight now, we can go back and look at it and go, it wasn't as bad as everybody thought, because everybody from our genre of music was kind of struggling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm a child of the 80s. I'm 58. So, you know, I grew up in the 80s. And by 94, I started having kids. And you're right, the landscape just changed. It's like, what happened to my guitar solos? What happened to my music about, you know, what was wrong with writing songs about, you know, girls and having fun and all that? You know, what happened to that?
Again, you know, it was just a different.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't me insisting that things had to be a certain way. You know, it was just what was going on around us. I mean, Hooligan's Holiday, for example, was literally inspired by the title, was literally inspired by something a newscaster said during the riots in LA. And he said, you know, they did an overhead view of like fires everywhere, all these stores burning to the ground. And the newscaster said, it's a regular Hooligan's Holiday out there. And we wrote it down and it was like, okay, we wrote the song. But, you know, it was what it was. I can't change it. I can't go back and sit there and you know, it's like it happened. So I'm not going to give myself an ulcer over it. It's a great record. I had a lot of fun doing it. The only thing about that whole situation that I miss is that the fact that Tommy, Nikki, Mick, Vince, and myself aren't as friendly and could get together on a somewhat regular basis and just hang out and have a beer and just shoot the shit. You know what I mean? It's obviously different now, but that's the only thing I miss about that. You know what I mean? It was what it was.
Yeah. Hey, it's part of your history, man. It's part of your DNA. You wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't be the musician. Everything makes it.
Which leads me to a line in New Day, the song. Yesterday's gone. You cannot change it. Today is the day to rearrange it. And tomorrow's a day that may or may not come at all. So enjoy today.
Well, John Corabi, I'm going to enjoy April 24th when the album New Day comes out. Go to johncorabi.com, get tickets, all the information. John, anything you want to plug before we let you go?
No, I think that we covered it, buddy. The new record, like you said, is coming out April 24th. If anybody needs tickets to any of the shows or any information or they want to see the videos, it's all on johncorabi.com or my Facebook or Instagram page. And all I can say is thank you guys for the last 35, 40 years. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you. I will see you in Syracuse, New York. And for everyone else, I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Thank you.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.